Enjoying all that Toxic Radio has to offer? Well, make sure you like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be the first to find out about ticket giveaways, amazing guests, awesome contests, and Toxic Radio events. Just search Toxic Radio Live, all one word, and press that little button. Every time you do, someone here at Toxic Radio will get their wings.
Yay!
Well, not really.
Aww.
But we will get a warm, fuzzy feeling in our tummies. But then again, that just might be the beer. Anyway, like and follow us, and we will see you out there on the interwebs.
Master, dinner is served. Igor, it's not that I don't appreciate the effort, but you know I prefer my meals uncooked. And how many times have I told you about using garlic? Yes, Master. Forgive me, Master. Please. Bite into Paradelphia. Thursday nights at 8, only on Toxic Radio. Paradelphia, because what if it's all true?
Hey guys, dating life going pretty shitty?
I find you so creepy, I think you should have to walk around with a bell around your neck.
Finding yourself getting a little desperate for some female companionship?
Alexa, tell me you love me.
Hell no. You disgust me.
What you need is to upgrade your style right now. The Toxic Store's got exactly what you need. Pick up some stylish gear featuring Deviant Gamer, Toxic Radio, and the Heavy Metal Happy Hour.
Oh, yeah!
You can find the store through the Toxic Radio app or toxicradio.net. Get in the game.
Do I make you horny, baby?
Get yourself a little love.
That guy's getting boobies.
Yeah, he is.
Toxic Radio and the Toxic Store. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic.
Hungry for Hope Nation, your host, Donnie Hart here, and I'm joined by my co-host.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back. Nice to be behind the microphone here at Toxic Radio. Nice to see some familiar faces. Donnie, thanks for having me back on, bud.
Yanni, how does it feel? I know football's going on, all the sports and everything, man, and you're back in the spot you feel most comfortable, man. How does it feel to be here today?
Yeah, of course, it's football season, so I actually feel alive, feel like I have worth, and, can provide something to the world. But, no, mostly I've had a really busy summer with work and everything like that. We've grown all kinds of stuff. We're delivering down in Washington, D.C. now, so it's been a summer of change for me professionally, personally, and everything like that, so.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we're even gladder to have our guest tonight. She's already here. We're joined by Candace Gantt today. She is the founder of Mind Your Brain Foundation. We had Janine Kirby on, who's connected with them. She's the one who put us in touch. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, Kirby. And Candace, welcome to the show.
Yes, it's great to be here. Thanks, Donnie, for the invitation.
Thank you for coming on. I've heard so much great things about you. I've seen so many great things about you. We've been trying to make this work for a little. I'm just happy to finally have you, and I'm glad you came on.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
So Candace, like I said, you're the founder of Mind Your Brain Foundation. You just want to tell us what's Mind Your Brain Foundation and what you're all about in that.
Happy to. I'd love to share with everybody. So Mind Your Brain started 15 years ago. After I had a traumatic brain injury, I was hit while bicycling by a construction vehicle that was hauling a trailer behind it. It fishtailed and hit me. I had a traumatic brain injury. And after rehabilitation, there was a cliff I fell off that I just couldn't find any resources to help me recover. And I knew that I was not the same person that I was the 2 years prior to that. And I had two small children at home, so I was desperate to get some help. I went back to Penn and talked with my neurosurgeon and described the plight of myself and other brain injury survivors. And he suggested that I work with the Center for Brain Injury and Repair, which is at Penn Medicine as well, and offer a conference, a patient-centered conference for brain injury survivors that could connect all those resources to the people who are so desperate, so vulnerable, needed some good advice and recommendations. And so we connected all that. We started conferences in 2005. We had 50 people, which we were thrilled. And then 6 years later, we had 350 survivors and caregivers. So that was the birth of the Mind Your Brain Foundation. After discussions with many of the physicians, clinicians, therapists in the area, we decided that this platform for conferences and connecting people, was going to make a significant impact. So we also have a Mind Your Brain in Lancaster General Hospital every year and one at the Houston Methodist Hospital. So we're really thrilled. That was the roots. That's how we all started.
Yeah, and you mentioned your conference. I was actually blessed to be a part of your conference. I think it was March. It was because of COVID and everything.
That's
it was
right.
through Zoom, and it was eye-awakening to me. It was awesome. It was so amazing, and I'm sure it's even better in person. But we see a lot of people. They come on and even like we had veterans on last week, and they feel like the best people to help people going through something are people who've been through it before. Is that a big thing? While you went through this, you survived this, and now instead of just moving on, you went back down into the depths of where you were to help these people. Is that a big
To lift
group?
them up, absolutely. Survivors want to understand that they're not alone. Well, we all do. We're not alone in this struggle, and that we have support. I think the biggest challenge is the isolation and the depression, and I'm the only one, and I have no resources, don't know where to go, nobody understands me. And to have a community come together, 350 of your peeps at lunch during the conference, during workshops that help you recover from whatever disabilities or help you on that road to recovery, that gives people hope. That really drives them continuing to come back to meet their friends.
Like you said, you went through all this stuff and you did all the medical stuff after your injury. Then you said about 2 years later, you just felt you were done with them. They were done, but you felt there was something missing, something more you needed that just wasn't being provided to you.
Oh, absolutely. So my insurance was exhausted. I was considered high functioning, had executive function, which we now know means you can tie your shoes. But you're so proud I have executive function. That must have been better than before my accident. But in reality, it's not. And that's a false sense of security. And when you get out after you're not in a community of people to help you, when you get into real life and you have to make decisions and you have to raise a family and prepare meals for them, you're completely lost. You're not functioning properly. Your memory is awful. And the challenges that you have uh, are so they're escalated. You didn't realize that you couldn't function outside of a rehab center. So that reality. So here's an example. 2 years after my accident, and I was given back my driver's license. It's taken away when you have a head injury, as you would imagine, and had to go through the whole process of regaining my license and reapplying. And I had my 4-year-old with me, my 10-year-old. We drove to the airport a week before Christmas to pick up my children's grandmother, my mother-in-law, who I love dearly. And we picked her up at the gate, which was then allowed, and went to baggage claim. And I left the girls with their grandmother, and I said, I'm going to go pick up my car. I'm going to go to the parking lot, get my car, and drive back around to baggage pickup and pick you up. And I got in my car. I found my car in the parking garage at the airport, and I exited, and then I couldn't find my way. I couldn't understand directions. I couldn't find my way back to the airport. I got lost in South Philly, had no idea where I was. And I had an 80-year-old mother-in-law and my 2 children waiting for me. I was in a moment of despair and discouragement. I pulled over to the side of the road and I called my husband. I was sobbing. I just had a complete meltdown. I didn't know where I was. And that was my moment of reality, that I hadn't healed. Didn't matter what the professionals had said. I couldn't find my way back out of an airport and back around.
And
that was my moment of reckoning.
I'm sure that must have been devastating. There wasn't, I'm sure your husband, your family, anybody going through things, they care. They'll do anything for you to help you, but they might not have the tools. They probably don't know how to help you. And you already went through the medical part. You just felt kind of like you said, you were all alone, and there was nobody there for you.
You're absolutely right. That the challenges that you have when you don't have support, and your family that is so loving doesn't know how to help you because that's not their expertise. Um, that leaves them in a vulnerable position as well. They had the same pain that I did. Is they don't know how to help me. They don't understand me. I have emotional outbursts. It was not a peaceful environment at home. And this hurts you. This hurts the survivor and the family day by day.
Going through that's a traumatic experience. You already went through this traumatic experience, and I've noticed two things. Sometimes them experience can cause people to go down like a bad path. You just could give up and say, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to get help. They already offered me help." What made you, instead of giving up, take that other route and say, "I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find help, and I'm also going to help other people, so nobody sits there in that car crying like I did today." What made you go down that route?
Yeah, I think that has to do with um, my passion for I wasn't an athlete in high school or college. I picked it up late in life, but I read an article one time about a triathlon, a 50-year-old woman who did a triathlon, an Ironman triathlon. And so I thought, gosh, I can swim, I can bike, I can do this. I love to run. And so I think that driving passion of being an athlete, no matter when you started that road, no matter when you adapted yourself as an athlete, you identified yourself as an athlete, you really have a strong drive to a goal. And I think that's what it was. I set the stake in that I'm not, this is terrible. I cannot live like this. I can't put my family through it. I have to. And maybe it's a mother's intuition, a mother's drive as well, combined with that you cannot sustain this lifestyle that's not healthy. And so I was driven to getting help. I read every magazine, every article, talked to everybody I could. I was on a mission because I wasn't going to accept the condition I was in.
Yeah, so tell us more about that mission. You were in that port, and then you decided 2 years later, you were going to do more. What were the pieces that put together that eventually would become this amazing organization, Mind Your Brain Foundation? How did you go about it? What were the pieces?
Yeah. So it started when I went back to my neuropsychologist and my neurosurgeon, and I continued to ask them for help. What is it? Please point me in the right direction because I'll do whatever it takes. I was playing Nintendo games that had memory games. I was willing to do absolutely anything to recover. And through those communications, I kept asking. I was tenacious. What else can I do? Bring whatever tools you have, whatever workshops you have, whatever books I can read, bring it on. And through that experience about being out in the community and talking more about my struggles is when my neurosurgeon suggested seeing that there was a dearth of information. I wasn't the only one. At the rehab center, they weren't able to offer me any support after my insurance was exhausted. So it was that communication with my neurosurgeon that was the impetus of the foundation because he believed in me. I think that's what it is. You need somebody that believes in you. You found somebody that says, I get that. I get it. And I'm willing to support you. And that was my wingman.
Yeah, and I feel like not everybody is going to have somebody like you had there, and I feel like you have become that wingman, that person for other people who might, because you might want to get help, but if you just can't find it, you get discouraged. And like I said, it's so easy for people. I feel like we have them two roads we can go down, and you can understand why these people go down these other roads, and sometimes they don't make it back from these roads. And people are like you're there.
Absolutely true. Yeah, there's a split in the road, and you've got a choice to make. And I would tell people, you have to be passionate about it. You've got to pull yourself up. But it's one thing to have that self encouragement, that self talk, but you also need somebody who believes in you, and it can be absolutely anybody. It can be somebody in clergy. It could be your neighbor. I think that tell your story. Don't be don't don't leave out any of the details. Tell people you're struggling and be vulnerable and ask people for help. People want to help. I'm convinced of that. The kindness in people is overwhelming. you just have to keep telling the story until you find that good connection, that somebody that maybe they can't emotionally help you, but physically they can take you to appointments. Maybe it's the emotional piece that you can cry on their shoulder.
Yeah, I
You
feel
need
like
to find that.
you talk about asking for help. I feel like something I've noticed, something I've dealt with myself personally. It's hard. It's so easy. You know, it sounds so easy. I need help, but as human beings, we're not like wired that way. We feel like we're admitting. I always felt like I'd be admitting
Weakness.
I've found weakness.
Weakness, yeah.
Do you feel that, Yanni?
Yeah, it's hard to reach out to somebody else when, again, you know, you're confident in yourself, right? You're capable of anything is the way you're wired. So to ask somebody else for help, you're giving that up. You know what I mean? Even internally. But you know, I think we all have seen, right? And I think we all have seen that that's just not the case. In fact, it takes strength to go ask somebody for help. You know, on the other side. So Candace, where are you in your recovery now? Because these things don't stop. You know, I mean, you're still recovering. So I mean, do you still have these kind of bouts, or you know, just how are you generally these days?
Yep, yeah. So it's true that those struggles stay with you your whole life, and they change a little bit because you learn to manage the ones you recognize. Once you recognize, you find tools to overcome them. So for a long time, I could not go out to eat because the assault, the noise, and grocery shopping and making choices was alarming. It was I was overstimulated like a little baby. You can't have all that noise and vision and sound. It was just shocking to my system. Physically, I had just shut down. So I had to continue to do that in smaller doses. I couldn't choose my clothes. I couldn't make a decision about what to wear. So I would hang my clothes up. You may not remember this, but there used to be a time with children that you could geranimal their clothes. That they had little animals on it, and it would tell you if you had two giraffes, your clothes matched. That's what I did to my closet. I geranimaled my closet so that they weren't difficult decisions, and I would set them out for a week. This goes with this. I would, take my quiet time and decide what I was going to wear. But those struggles are all gone because I found tools. I recognized them. I said, I got to figure out how to do this. I have a better memory now, I think, than my husband does, because when I set my keys down, I don't lose them. I'm methodical about it. I put them in the same place every time. My car in the garage, if I'm at a parking garage, I take a picture. I have tools, strategies to help me with my deficits.
That's good. I could use the animal thing now because I have a terrible time matching up my clothes. It's really embarrassing.
Exactly.
So you told us more about that, but this started 15 years ago. Where is Mind Your Brain Foundation today in 2021?
Yes, so we've grown exponentially through the good work of so many people that have supported us. We have conferences now in 3 cities, and we also have funded some research done by Moss Rehabilitation and Westchester University to see what kind of rehabilitation works for a certain population. There's very few studies because, as you know, this is not a new adage, but if you've seen one brain injury, if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury, because they're all different. And so there's not a lot of research. It's not easy to find out what the best rehabilitation techniques are. So we're trying to hone in on that and put some more resources and money into finding out a collection, a broad scope of tools of rehabilitation therapies that you can use. And we're also been funded by Merck. This is the most exciting thing that we're working on now, is you may know the virtual reality, the Oculus glasses.
Yes.
They're gaming tools that I know this much about, but I know that it's a huge, it's a younger generation entertainment. And we're gamifying rehabilitation. We're working with a company called Digidrub, again, funded by Merck, that's designing recovery modules so that somebody who can't afford rehabilitation anymore, like I was 2 years out, I had no other resources. Actually, you could buy them off the shelf, and they're rehabilitation tools. You put them on, and it's just like a reality that you're in a resource center and that you are in therapy.
So you went from
So
this.
we're developing that.
I'm just trying to get the picture. You went from this 2 years after your injury. You were sitting there. You couldn't find yourself back to the airport. You had suffered this traumatic brain injury. You were
Who
crying.
can, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that airport. They make these things so confusing. That
Yeah, but you were just, you felt hopeless. You felt like your whole life had been turned upside down, and you decided to fight back and help other people. Now how does that feel, knowing where you were, sitting in that car feeling hopeless, and now you're doing such big things. You're with Penn Medicine. You got this nonprofit just helping people. How does that feel?
That just fills my heart up, because at the conferences, and this is what keeps me grounded, is there's so many tragic stories of people that are vulnerable and underserved out there, that's the fan to my fire. That's what keeps me going, because I see continually every year after year people that are still struggling. And so the reward is huge in my heart, that I can help somebody and lift them up, and then encourage other people to do the same thing. Follow me.
Yeah.
So do you think the stigma on brain injuries has changed in recent years? Like, are you seeing a change in kind of how people, I guess, treat other people who have had brain injuries? Maybe like just kind of the way it's generally thought of. I remember when we had Jeannie Kirby on. That was one of the things, is that changing the stigma was one of her missions. So how do you think that's going?
Yeah, I think it's improved. I still think that there's a lot of information and education that needs to be done for the community to understand the nuances and the disabilities of brain injury survivors, because it can be considered something else. Mental health is one thing that people are somebody with a brain injury might be diagnosed with a mental health issue because their provider did not understand the difficulties they were having, and it was related to a brain injury, and they don't know how to treat it. So I think there's still a lot of education can be out there, and very few times, honestly, in my early recovery days, that I would tell people I had a brain injury because I was going to be judged by that. And I don't think people understood what it was or how it was, but I knew it was bad. So I didn't want to tell anybody that I had poor memory issues, and I had emotional regulation issues, and I couldn't sit in a restaurant. I was hiding all that.
I'm seeing that a little bit. I mean, I guess to speak for myself, I'm seeing it a little bit because watching football over the weekend, someone had a little bit of a late hit out of bounds where they hit the guy in the helmet, and I literally stood up off my couch and go, "No, don't hit him in the head." And like I sat there thinking for a while, like, wow, that's the softest thing I've ever said. But at the same time, like, no, it's true. Like, don't hit him in the head, because it's not only for the offensive player that I was worried about, it's also for the defender. I mean, that's an extra late hit to the head for these players that they don't need. So I guess it stood out to me, and it's funny that I'm on this show right now talking about head injuries. All things come
And
full
that's true.
full
And
circle.
I love football.
All right,
And
so
it
who's your
hurts
team?
me. Just the sound. Who's my team?
Yeah, Eagles fan, right?
The Browns.
The Browns.
I like
I
them.
should
All
say the
right,
Eagles, but you know, I'm from Ohio.
Get her out of here.
That's fine. It could have been so much worse.
Nah.
Sorry about that. But college football, it's got to be Notre Dame because my daughter goes to school there.
There you go.
I played college football in Columbus, Ohio, so I had a lot of Cleveland Browns fans, and yeah.
You're my hero.
But you're my hero.
You're the real hero.
Speaking of hero, you were actually voted Philadelphia Magazine Health Hero of 2017. You
An
are
actual hero.
You are. You just set me up for that. You made my job so much easier.
Thanks for that. Yes, that was Philadelphia Magazine, and it really showcased Mind Your Brain. That was a great turning point, I think, for the Mind Your Brain Foundation.
That was
because you don't get a lot of
2017?
publicity. You don't get a lot of publicity, again, because it's an invisible injury, and so there's a lot of other foundations that are a whole lot larger than ours, reaching a big population. They're on television, the news, and brain injury just does not have that draw, that publicity, unless it's for an athlete. So to have some publicity about the struggles of brain injury survivors, we were thrilled. That was just really a joy and a turning point for us to be recognized in the community that we're doing some good work for that population.
Yeah, you brought up the athlete thing. Yanni was talking football, and sometimes we do give these athletes more attention when we're not giving it to regular humans who regular people who deserve it. But I feel like everything going on with all the head injuries and sports and football in general, I feel like it's really been brought more to attention with all the CTE stuff, and it's shown that these head injuries have led to, like you said, other stuff, substance abuse, suicidal tendencies, all these other mental health injuries, all because of these people had these head injuries their whole life. Have you seen? Tell us what in that aspect of like the athletes and what attention that has brought to brain injuries.
Indeed, and we can talk about Gabby Gifford too, with a gunshot to her head. That was the poster child for brain injury for a long time, and then the athletes and junior sports as well, pee-wee sports and Pop Warner, those type of things. Also, the tests, the cognitive tests, the baseline tests that are now being done by every student that plays any sports in the high school level, that's mandated by the state. So all of those were a result of pushing the recognition in the media of the challenges that brain injury survivors have. That was all born out of those stories of struggles.
Yeah, you bring up Gabby Gifford. She was the politician who was shot a couple years ago, I think. How's that? Tell us more about that situation. She suffered a gunshot wound, and how did that affect her?
Yes, so that she's made a profound difference in being able to be a spokesperson for this population, for brain injury survivors. She was shot in the head at a rally, and her injuries were really profound. She had multiple strokes and seizures, headaches. She had difficulty with her gait in walking. So she had physical, cognitive, emotional. She had the whole gamut of problems that brain injury survivors have. She was an overachiever in the challenging area. But what was really interesting is one of the things that we always champion is music therapy. She started to walk with her gait and improve her cadence through music therapy, and also speaking again. She had very little communication skills, and through singing words with a music therapist, that's how she gained her voice back. And that's why she was able to go back to Congress and report back to them, only because of that great therapy.
Yeah. And getting back, her story's amazing. That was from a gunshot. But getting back, do you think a program like Mind Your Brain Foundation can help so many people? Do you think it could help? You see so many of these suicides we keep on talking about by professional athletes. A new one, it seems like, every week. And we bring it up a lot on the show. Do you think a program like Mind Your Brain Foundation would be able to help these athletes live longer lives? They're dying in their 40s, their 30s. They're basically modern-day gladiators. They're out there for our entertainment, and they're taking all these hits to the head. Do you think a program built around other survivors of head injuries could help these people? We've seen big stories like Aaron Hernandez. He went a little off the deep end, but Junior Seau, we were talking about, was a Colt Brennan.
Right. I mean, they're just it's a countless number of them, and it's for various reasons. I like the way you put that. That if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury. You know what I mean? I like the way you put that, because everything is so different in what the symptoms are, and maybe for some of these athletes, you're not seeing anything. They look fine. They look to be living the dream. And then all of a sudden you find them, the next day, and it doesn't need to happen. It's like Donnie's saying, it doesn't need to happen that way.
Do you deal with athletes with Mind Your Brain Foundation? Tell us more about that part of it.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, we do. Thanks for that question. So, yes, we do. In fact, a couple of years ago, we've had some professional ice hockey players from the Flyers be a keynote speaker for us and on a discussion panel. And we welcome all the athletes. We really make a really hard push to athletes to join the conferences, and also veterans. We talked about that a little bit earlier, because it's hard for a military, it's hard for a soldier to ask for help. And so we really reach out to that community as well. We work very closely with the VA hospital and their polytrauma center there to invite them all, and also give them space that's unique to them, because as you may know, that athletes and our veterans kind of like move in a pack. Right. And so we try to provide space for them so that they can be with their peeps.
Right, and that makes sense too. I don't think the plight of the athlete, right? Again, the normal person thinks, oh, these guys are living the life. They're getting paid millions for playing a children's game, is what everybody says. But to understand their specific problems, I don't think somebody from, an everyday person could understand their problems the way another athlete could.
Exactly. Athletes talking to athletes, I think, is the best solution to starting the dialogue.
Same
I think
thing.
that's it. You have to start the conversation somewhere.
Sure, and same thing with military. Of course, we've had plenty of vets on the show that say the same thing. They need to be around other vets. They need to talk. Therapists don't understand, no matter how professional or great or how much schooling they did. They need to be around other vets that understand that we're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Go, Candace.
Please go ahead.
You're the star.
I'm just, yeah. Oh, and I thought you gentlemen were. Yes, they need to be. We all need to be with our peeps. We have a posse, and they get us.
I love you say that. But so you do. To tell us more, you do the conference. You told us some other stuff. What else is Mind Your Brain Foundation doing? I know you got the new stuff going on. Anything else you would like to tell us about your organization?
Two things I'll share with you. One is Homers for Hope. We are partnering with Homers for Hope, which is a baseball. Yeah, there you go. And they raise money for a family that's struggling. And in this case, so we help thousands of people, but also we need to focus in on one family at a time, lifting people up. We like to do both. And so we're partnering with them, and we're raising money in Lancaster in support of the Mind Your Brain at Lancaster conference that's there in 2022, but we're raising money for a family that's struggling right now mightily. So we're very proud of that work that we do in the community. And we also have a soiree. We also have a fundraiser coming up on September 30th at the Mooshaloo. And it's outside, and we have physical therapists. We're showcasing therapy that brain injury survivors experience. So there's a music therapist, there's a art therapist, Perry Mila will be there, and we have Digidrub, which is talking about those Oculus goggles to introduce people to that therapy, so they can actually get a sense for what we're providing to the population, and using the technology to supersize their recovery.
Now, is this event open to the public if anybody wants to go to it, or?
Absolutely. Come on down. And there on our website, there is a link to making reservations. So we'd welcome. It'll be open up to that day of the event. So we're happy. Kirby will be there.
Kirby.
So come and see Kirby and me. I'd love to talk with you about all things brain injury.
Now, if somebody's listening to the show and they suffer from a traumatic brain injury, or somebody close to them they love suffers from it, and they're trying to get them help, or they're trying to get their self-help, how would they go about getting Mind Your Brain Foundation help from them, or anything, connecting the dots?
Yes, absolutely. There's a couple things they can do. Of course, come to our website, because we have podcasts that we have experts in the field of rehabilitation and all kinds, hearing, vision, headaches, emotional regulation, how to handle the holidays that are coming up. So we have 50 podcasts that can help them listen in, and it also will give them the telephone number and the links to those type of resources. That puppy love was a good one. They're all good. So go through it and take a look. There's we're going to have at the next conference, speaking of that, now I see that picture, we're going to have a little kissing booth with puppies, because as we know that puppy therapy is always good for our emotional well-being.
Me and Yanni will be at that booth.
Puppy therapy. I like that.
You should be there. I wanted to share one more thing with you, and that is that the Brain Injury Association of Pennsylvania, which I'm on the board of, does amazing work as well. So in an emergency situation, if there's a dire need, there's a resource line, and I'd like to give you that number as well. I think that's important for any of the listeners to have. They don't answer the phone. It's not 24-hour manned. They will actually reach out to you within 24 hours. So it's not a crisis line, but it's a helpline if you need to know what doctors are in your areas and what tools that they have available to them. They might need somebody to help them fill out applications to state programs. And so that number for the Brain Injury Resource Line, it's called BIRL, is the acronym, BIRL. That number is 1-800 444 6443.
That's awesome.
And I think that's a
and
yeah,
anybody can call that number who needs help. Traumatic brain injury
Right
survivors.
on your screen now.
Yeah, it's up there right now.
That mic works quick, I tell you.
Oh man, our producers are so good. It's up there for everybody.
Thank you for that.
And
that's a great resource.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now you talk. We do a lot of work, like Yanni said, with veterans. Man, that's we basically we try to bring hope to the hopeless, but it just so happens veterans are so. We find ourselves working with them so much because I feel like they're forgotten about sometimes, and they have so many problems. They went and served our country, and they come back, and we've had people like Matt Davies, Mark Eberly, the guys from Operation Tattoo and Freedom, a lot of other people who are veterans who came on this show. Tell us what you've seen with veterans in your work. And
yeah, and they're a population that we focus on as well, because we see just a huge need to support them and their families. I think the families, I just want to talk a minute about families too, because I think that it's a tough role to be a caregiver, whether to a veteran or anyone else. I think that's the most honorable role you can have, the most difficult and challenging. And we try to provide resources at our conferences for that population as well. But the veterans, they're a critical piece. They will not be forgotten to Mind Your Brain forever. My father served in the Navy. We're soon to have maybe someone else in the family that's in the Army. So my heart is there for that population. And if there's anything that we could ever do for a veteran, I encourage them to reach out to us at info@mindyourbrainfoundation.org, because we'll be right on it. They'll get to the top of the list for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's resources out there, and we don't know they're there for us. And even when I was going through my stuff, there's a lot of stuff there, but we just don't know. And I feel like with other people, coming from somebody who's dealt with something, if you hear from somebody who walked in similar shoes as you, it can help. So especially if you're helping veterans, another veteran goes to a veteran and say, hey, these people they're good people, they help me. I feel like that kind of breaks the ice and opens that door to getting the help that could save their life.
Absolutely. And we have those resources. We have a list just for veterans that we can provide for them. So if they reach out to us, we'll get them to we'll give them some options and opportunities to connect. And we know some people in high places. So we might be able to, get them again to the front of the line somewhere else.
So you got the conference coming up. When's the conference?
So the conference is March. Brain Injury Awareness Month. Around the country is in March, and so we have our next conference at the Mind Your Brain at Penn Medicine in the Perlman Center on March 26th. It's a Saturday, all day.
And what other stuff do you guys have coming up? Anything you want to tell people about? I know you got the thing at the Mushaloo. We got that September 30th. Then go on your website to get tickets. That's open to the public. It's going to be outdoors. Kirby's going to be there.
Herb.
Wow, you're taking good notes. That's absolutely right. And I also want to share with you that all of our conferences are free. There's no charge. So I know that a lot of our survivors are struggling, and they don't have vocation, and they're unemployed. Bring them on. These are all free services for you. And so the next event is Zoom with Santa, and this is. I don't want to tell any secrets, but Kirby's family may be involved in that. And we have Zoom with Santa for young children, and we work with the Children's Hospital to provide, when people can't get to malls or physically disabled, we can Zoom right in their home with Santa and have it's probably about 15 or 30-minute conversation with Santa about what they want for Christmas. So we'll be hosting that again with the help of Kirby.
Oh, that's awesome. Kirby does great stuff. She's actually the person who connected us. It's so
Yep,
cool.
she's a superstar.
She's
Yeah.
also awesome on kind of on social media, giving her take on like pretty much any head injury that comes up, like high profile. She's like crazy and awesome with that. So check her out on social.
Yeah, especially with the athletes too, man.
Yeah.
We had her calling, I think, when was it Colt Brennan, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much any high-profile one that comes down, she'll have her breakdown, and it's all there. There's pictures. I mean, it's great work.
It's amazing.
So, I just what we see on this show a lot. We see. I mentioned before you had this event that could have broke you. It was a traumatic thing. It's no different than we all go through these traumas in our life. Some people battle some kind of mental health, some kind of addiction. Even we were out there last week helping the tornado victims in my hometown. They're all people who suffered trauma, and trauma can cause us to go down, that path of either good or bad. And you used probably the worst, the worst day of your life, you could say. I'm sure it's up there. Your accident, your injury. You used it to basically do what I would say is the best days of your life. This organization that's kind of what you'll be remembered as, something that's helped so many people. How does that feel now, knowing what you went through to get here, how many people you've helped?
That's a good feeling. The opportunity to help other people is really rewarding. To see them being successful, I think that's where I get the greatest joy, is when I hear someone, they'll come back to the next conference and say, "Oh, I got a job because I came to this conference and I talked to some of the resource tables that were here, and I was able to get vocational rehabilitation, and I'm back on the job, part-time, but full-time, it doesn't matter." I think that's where the joy just flows when I hear some of those great stories. Or somebody brings their child. There was a couple of years ago someone who brought their son, who was 11 years old, that had a brain injury, and the kids were making fun of him at school. And that just breaks your heart. Next year they came back, and he was doing so well. Those are the moments that you just get all tingly. It's a feel good. And I have to share about my injury too, if you don't mind, that all this has been reconstructed. I've had multiple brain injuries, brain surgeries. So I have 2 plates and 40 titanium bolts all put back together like Humpty Dumpty. And those are the things that makes you humble, to look back at where you were and where you've come. But at the same time, there's other people still struggling. So you don't focus on your own recovery. You're worrying about lifting other people up. Sometimes it keeps me up late at night that not everybody's found the conference. I want them to come and see us.
I'm sure they will. All this stuff you're doing is just, I feel like, spreading hope to people who desperately need it. And you're such a great voice for this because you went through it. So I got to ask you, Candace, our show's all based about hope. What does hope mean to Candace Gantt?
Yeah, thanks. So I think hope is either a noun or a verb to me. So a noun, and the dictionary describes it as that too. A noun is it's a feeling, you want to get better, and it's a kind of a fuzzy feeling. And a verb is all about action. The hope is something in motion, and that's what it means to me, is that I can't hope for something. I can't expect an outcome by just hoping without action. You got to get up. You've got to. And maybe it's just baby steps. That's all I was taking, was baby steps. I couldn't shop. I went down one aisle and went home. Those are the type of things that you have to just take a chance. Take a chance. Try it. That's all the encouragement I want to give everybody is go for a walk one day. If you're having trouble getting back to running, or you're having trouble with not having outbursts, practice yoga. Find something. Take action so that you own your recovery. You got to invest in your recovery. It's not, you just can't hope it. You've got to have it in action.
That's amazing stuff. Candace, I think Yanni has a question for you.
Just first off, I just want to say I love like the emotion in that last piece there. I mean, just you really like feel every word Candace is saying there. And she brought out the dictionary on you, Donnie. When's the last time you looked at a dictionary?
Yanni, get on with your question.
So the one thing I want to ask, and I asked this for Mike, is that the virtual reality thing. We brought it up a couple times. So what exactly? I mean, like what's what kind of content is going on in there as part of recovery?
Yeah, this is cool stuff. This
Right.
is really stuff that I've just been recently introduced to and how we can use it. And we're working with Success Rehab, which is up in Bucks County as a rehabilitation center, and they're therapists. So what we're doing is we're designing it so that it can be there's different levels of therapy. And we're working with just people doing regular daily tasks, how to get up in the morning. There's some brain injury survivors that don't have a routine when they get up out of bed in the morning. So we're going through routine with them. They can actually put on these goggles and it walks them through brushing their teeth and taking a shower and making their breakfast, that morning routine. That's one of the programs we have. And another one is going to be driving to your job. Some people that are just getting back to driving after a brain injury, we're going to put them in a simulator with the Oculus on, and they're going to practice driving. We're going to give them directions, and they're going to have to find their way to the baseball field, the football field, to the hospital, to the next doctor's appointment. Another module is going to be on finance, on balancing your checkbook and paying your bills.
That's crazy. I mean, here in Jersey, I mean, a bunch of people might need the VR driving practice anyway. That might help the brain injury or not. So,
Agreed.
That's awesome stuff, Candace. You've shared, like Yanni said, you can feel your passion behind this. You can tell it's a cause you really care about.
Definitely.
Anything you want to leave before we get you out of here? Anything you want to leave Hungry for Hope Nation? Everybody listening? Anybody else who's going to listen? Anything you want to leave them with?
Thanks for that. I want to tell them to take the baby steps. Invest in yourself. You're worth it. You can do this. I was in a coma for weeks and in a rehabilitation center, couldn't walk and talk. You got this. It doesn't matter the injuries or the severity or the struggles or your demographics. It just doesn't matter. You're just worth it. And it's possible. Your brain repaths. So people oftentimes would tell me that I've reached my highest recovery, but you don't. Don't let anybody hold you back, because that's absolutely not true. I'll tell you God's honest truth, that your brain is going to continue to improve and develop as long as you invest in it. So that would be my message, to take the next step. Take the baby step.
Yeah, and that goes for anybody listening. Some people, maybe they can't relate to the traumatic brain injury, but whatever your storm is, if your house was destroyed by a tornado in Malacca Hill this week, if your life's been devastated by drugs and mental health, whatever it may be, whatever storm you're battling, look at Candace Gantt. Look at her. She went from a coma, she couldn't walk, and now she founded this organization, Mind Your Brain Foundation, that has done so much. So anybody who feels hopeless, just use Candace as that hope, because you're walking, talking hope. I just want to thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank Kirby for connecting the dots, and we'll let you get back.
Candace, before we let you go, you got a family member in the Army, and one in the Navy, and one going to the Army. So this winter, who are you rooting for?
The Army-Navy game.
Ooh, that's tough. That's really tough. I'm going to have to go with Navy. I got to go with my dad's team.
There it is. The gauntlet has been laid down.
We got to pick for Navy. Right. Candace, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Candace.
I think your words can help so many people, your story of inspiration and hope. I just want to say have a great night.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Great show.
It was a great show.
Yanni, what do you think?
It was great.
You got to throw a little sports in there.
Yeah.
That's always the most interesting thing when we bring these people. We've had a couple. We had Curtis Anderson. He was the bull riding professional bull rider from Canada. He got in an accident. You know, we see a lot of athletes. We talked about so many football players What's your take on all that?
Sure, and it's different athletes and different from different sports. I mean, even talking about bull riding, right? I mean, it comes from all over the place. The head injury thing, and it's not just sports, right? I mean, we talked just with Candace just now about veterans and how that is, and getting that take, right, that side of things of like, it's not all glory, it's not all, you know, money and whatever, fame, you know what I mean? It's there's a darker side to it, and those people need help too, you know.
Yeah, she brought up how the Flyers have been some keynote speakers. You know, we had Chris Terran in here in the studio, and
That's right.
and he kind of shared, you know, how the lifestyle led them to, you know, leads a lot of them players down to addiction problems. He had his own addiction problem with alcohol, and you see drugs, and he was telling us his career, remember? And it was just like, he felt like a modern day gladiator too.
Yeah, and just like the way that it was so casual, right? Oh, we had practice in the morning, we'd go get a beer, and then wake up and go to dinner and drink there. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of the life. It's not that he woke up one day and goes, well, I'm going to be an alcoholic now. No, it just kind of like happens in living that life.
Yeah, that's why, you know, we have sports backgrounds. I just love bringing, I think they go together so well with all the CTE stuff. We talk about Aaron Hernandez. We had Alex Sylvester on the show. He talked about how he was around. He was on the same football team, the Patriots, in the tight end room with him. And, you know, these people, you know, maybe some of his problems were other stuff, obviously, but I'm sure some of the hits to the head might have not
It didn't help. It definitely didn't help. Yeah, I mean, I think you find out that, I guess the way to put it is that many people need hope, right? It's not just the hopeless, as we put it. You know, it's not just someone who's homeless. It's not just someone who's lost their job. It could be anyone, and you don't really know until you have that conversation with them. And for those people that are struggling, again, I mean, how many more times can we say it? Open up. Let us help. Let Donnie help. This guy's out here, you know, he's not going to talk about himself, but, you know, he's out there helping people from the storm. He didn't need to do that. You know, he's taking his time to go and help these people. And, yeah, it's in our community, but he's taking that initiative. He's pairing up with the Enrights, and he's pairing up with all these contacts that we have, and he's helping people. I mean, it's powerful stuff, Don.
Yeah, thank you, Gon. I feel like a lot of people, like you said, they don't have to be. Sometimes I've known people who have the perfect life from the outside. They're not homeless. They're not sitting out there on a corner in Kensington, but they're battling something much deeper inside. We've seen it so much. We've even had guests on who, you know, they said their life seemed so great if you were looking at it, but it was really the worst days of their life. So you never know what anybody's battling. And like I said, we all battle our own storm. And anybody can reach out, get help, man. You mentioned earlier, it's not weak. It's probably the strongest thing you can do. Sometimes people see it as a sign of weakness. I think it's one of the strongest things somebody can do is reach out. But Yanni, speaking of reach out, I'm going to reach out to you and ask you about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I was actually just going to say, you know,
cut the shit and get the sport, kid.
Let's be very serious here. You know, I mean, everyone needs hope, but especially the Philadelphia Phillies. But we'll move on from that. We'll talk Eagles, I guess. Fun weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was a fun game.
What do you think? Were you surprised? Were you not surprised? Did Atlanta suck? We suck? What's going on?
So I had to have a pretty high expectation on the offense. I believe in the players and the scheme and everything like that. So I kind of got what I expected out of the offense. I was surprised by the defense. The defensive line really dominated, and I think that has much more to do with Atlanta is going to be a pretty bad team this year. But I was excited to see the defense make some plays. I think building up those guys' confidence, especially in the back seven, is going to go a long way for the Eagles this year. This division's still wide open, this NFC East, and then you know what it is, Donnie, get into the tournament. You know,
yeah, you can
ship
win
in a chair.
How do you think? What do you think? We're playing the 49ers this week.
Playing the Niners this week. I feel a lot better about it this week than I did last week. I'll tell you that much. Think it'll be a pretty high-scoring affair. The Niners put up 41, and I don't know that they're putting up 41 again on this new-look Eagles defense, but I think we'll be able to. The Eagles will be able to keep up with them. It'll be a high-scoring game, and you know, maybe we pull it out. They got to come across the country and play here. You know that stadium is going to be rocking after what we saw last week. You know that, so I'm real excited for the game this weekend, and.
Yeah, Kirby said our secondary definitely turned a corner. I don't know if the pun was intended there, but that's her take on it.
Yeah. The addition of Steven Nelson looks like he's going to solidify the other side of Darius Slay, not have Slay, do everything like he did last year. And many times last year, what happened, right? We left Slay on an island, and he got burned by a really good receiver because it was all up to him to save the defense. And I don't think he's got to do that this year.
So you mentioned you were watching the game. You saw you mentioned the Candace. You saw something about a head injury. Tell us about that. Is this show making you soft? What's going on?
I guess so.
We had some interviews with.
I don't know if it's fantasy football doing this to me or what the deal is, but yeah, Chris Godwin took a step out of bounds, and Dallas Cowboy defender kind of gave him a shot to the head, a helmet-to-helmet shot.
There's scumbags, some Cowboys, aren't they?
I just remember popping up out of my couch, just going like, "Yo, don't do that."
Not that. I guess. Didn't you listen to episode 42 with Curtis Anderson? Not that.
You know what I mean? So I guess that just goes to that stigma, like that. We don't need to see that anymore. That's what they're trying to take out of the game, and maybe I overreacted. But like, it's just that's where my brain went. Whereas, like,
no pun intended.
Yeah, maybe like 10 years ago, I'm like, yeah, no, not anymore. That's just not what it's about. We want to see these guys out here. We want to see them playing, and at the end of the day, too, we want to see them live a life after they're done with the football field, too.
Yeah. So you saw the Eagles. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? We're just going to go run down there. Aaron Rodgers, he got blown out.
They really did. I mean, not having an off season and not playing in the preseason, I guess, there's a little bit of rust, even if you're Aaron Rodgers.
You think maybe he's suffering some head injuries or something? Is that why he's a little
maybe
off?
Have you seen what's going on with his haircut and everything like that? The guy looks like he's been like riding with a motorcycle crew all summer or something. I don't know what's going on.
Do you think he's just not happy where he's at, or?
I think, listen, he took the time off. This is a game of timing, and it's a game of reps and everything like that. And by all accounts, he was taking those reps in practice and not against real speed and everything like that. There is an acclimating, like there's some time that you need to take to acclimate to that speed. And they clearly didn't get there. And honestly, I mean, it looked like in that second half, he wasn't really trying to come back and win. I think they kind of saw what was happening in that game, and he just packed it in and said, we'll try again next week. It's a longer season this year. Maybe that played a factor into that. But, yeah, it was jarring to watch a guy who's played at such a high level play like that. But how about that Jameis Winston, though?
Yeah, Jameis Winston, man. We said he was going to, I've always been on him. I like what they did with the Saints. I feel like that can relate to a lot of stuff with the show. You see people he went through, that was a traumatic experience. He went from Tampa, and then they just
crab legs.
Just kidding. I feel like they kind of worked on him. They sat him out for that year. They made everything perfect, and they worked on him as a person, as a football player. And it looks, not a lot of teams are going to really do that to somebody.
Yeah, Sean Payton put that investment in there. Just to go back to what Candace was saying in her closing argument there, he invested. Sean Payton invested the time, and he really is a miracle worker. I mean, we're going to see Jameis do Jameis things throughout the year, right? He's not going to be the best quarterback in the league. He didn't have to do much in this game, right? It was pretty easy. It was pretty decided right from the start. But he's cleaned up his mistakes, and I think they're okay playing. They're a really good roster, right? I think they're okay just playing better than the other team. And leaving it at that. They're not going to put too much on Jameis. Don't go out there and win the game. Just don't go out there and lose the game. And that's enough for that team to win.
Yeah, he went from third-string quarterback to winning. That's a story of hope, right?
Sure, yeah, definitely. And he's put in the work. He went and got the LASIK and everything like that. He's put in the work. The teammates, if you listen to them, they love playing for him. That's a recipe for success.
So where do you see the Eagles going now before we get out of here, Yanni? You see some hope in our season?
I see a ton of hope. Again, like I said, the offense is something I was really excited to see, and the offense looks like what I expected it. Will there be an adjustment to this offense? It's very college looking, right? A lot of screens, a lot of swings, a lot of short stuff, a lot of read option. Of course, we got the quarterback to do that. But Jalen Hurts looked pretty good, even in the pocket, right? A few step ups. Will he make some mistakes in the pocket? Yeah, that's just kind of him. He's going to try to create. You don't take that away from a player. I don't think you try to limit Jalen Hurts. He is good enough. You put him out there, fix those mistakes. Maybe he didn't miss many throws. He missed the one. Was it to Goddard? I believe it was one to Goddard where Goddard was wide open and he underthrew him, trying not to overthrow him. What I would say to Jalen is don't think. right? Just play the game. You're damn good at it. Just get out there and fire. You know.
So you got a lot of hope for us this year.
I got hope for the offense. The defense. This is going to be a good test this Sunday. This Sunday we're going to find out a lot about this Eagles defense.
All right, man. Well, we'll watch it. We had a great show with Candace Gantt. We want to thank her. We want to thank Mind Your Brain Foundation. We want to thank Kirby, Hungry for Hope Nation. We want to thank you, and we're out of here.